Hello, everyone. Welcome to Popcast on the Rocks, episode 102. We're a podcast that talks about pop culture things, and sometimes there is whiskey. My name is John, and I am joined, as always, by Andrea
Hello, everybody.
and a brand new guest, long time coming, Tony. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
You bet. We're gonna have a good chat in this episode. We haven't had a show for feels like a little longer than normal, so we've got some things to talk about from our weeks, a few news stories, and then we're gonna get into Moon Knight. A lot of people have been talking about that. The first two episodes are presently available, and we've all seen them, and we're going to discuss. That spoiler talk will be in the latter half of the episode, though, so no worries about spoilers until we get there. First, Andrea, drink holidays. There must be some, yes?
Indeed. We have a couple drink holidays past on September. Wow. Ooh, you guys.
Oh my God, half a year is gone already. I don't want to.
I've been sick the past week, sleeping a lot. So I feel like we just moved a whole half a year ahead.
You woke up, your hair was down to your knees, and your nails
Right?
were growing out like 6 inches.
It's like the
Oh.
worst scenario of a Sleeping Beauty situation. She just
Yeah.
wakes up and is just all gnarly. Wouldn't that
Chris
be a
has
great
been
part of the fairy
frantically
tale?
kissing you and stuff, and he's like, "Gosh, you don't wake up."
What is this?
Yeah.
Soldiering on, taking care of our baby daughter for half a year without me, no big deal.
Oh, that would be sad. That made me sad just now. Yeah.
It was so fun
downer.
until that moment that I brought it
Yeah.
down. Reality.
Emotional damage.
Yeah.
Therapy later, it's fine, whatever.
Yeah. Mhm.
No, so April 7th, it was both National Beer Day and the day that we celebrate the end of Prohibition in the US. So, really vague and general for that. Obviously, the end of Prohibition, you could basically, drink anything and say you're celebrating the day. Otherwise, of course, raise a glass or a pint or however size you take it of beer to celebrate that. And then a couple of days ago on the 9th, it was National Gin and Tonic Day, which I am celebrating of a fashion.
Okay.
So I was thinking about us watching Moon Knight and sort of like, okay, well, in the show, I'm really loving the fact that it's centered around Egyptian mythology. Like Tony mentioned in his show notes, I think every kid had like an Egyptian mythology phase where it was just like super cool and you were super interested in it.
Well, when you
And
grew up with the Mummy,
right,
then
oh my
yes.
gosh. So so I was looking around for like an Egyptian twist on the gin and tonic and I found it. And it was invented during World War II in Egypt. And it was invented as a hangover cure, and it was super effective and therefore super popular amongst soldiers. So it's called the Suffering Bastard. And as I was making it, I was like telling Chris a little bit about the history of it, and of course was then thinking about the Mummy and just like flew into a barrage of Winston quotes. Oh, just like I just couldn't help myself. I was just like, "Oh, I wish I could have chucked it up in flaming glory with the other laddies. Instead, I sit here rotting of boredom and booze." And Chris was like,
Yeah.
"Oh." He's like, "Okay, well, bonus points if you." And I was already like, "I love Winston." And he's like, "I was gonna say name the
Yes.
character." I was like, "Don't worry, I've got it." So I have here the Suffering Bastard, which is equal parts bourbon, gin, lime juice, tonic, a little dash of ginger beer, and a dash of bitters. So,
Wow. That
cheers.
is some concoction.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
How is
Yep.
it?
It's decent. It's very just like effervescent. It's kind of
Okay.
it's just a hint citrusy. I feel like when I started making it, I thought the bourbon and gin would be terrible But you really
Okay.
they're just sort of like the tang of alcohol. It's not like warring flavors are happening. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I
It's
would have
not something
never
I
put
would
those
like
things together.
yeah, it's not something I would go out and order and be excited about, but I was like, "Oh, this is kind of fun." It's like I said, a twist on the gin and tonic. It originated in
Yeah.
Egypt. It feels appropriate. Like we can talk about it later, but I do feel like our main character in Moon Knight is a little bit of a suffering bastard. So, you know, it felt appropriate to me. So, there you go.
Are
All right.
you sure you didn't lose your sense of taste when you were sick and it's still hanging around?
Along with my sense of time. it's it's September and my taste buds are like, I don't know, man, we give up.
This tastes
Well,
great.
I was looking it up because you said cheers. You should say Fe Shahetek, Egyptian cheers. Fe
Ooh, okay.
Shahetek.
Okay.
So it's probably butchered it, but
That's all
I
right. I
like it.
mean,
It sounds cool.
it does.
Mhm. Fe Shahetek. Tony, are you drinking anything?
You know,
Celebrating a holiday, perhaps? No? Yes?
I wish I had like a cool background story for my drink, but I do know that during Prohibition, they had the what was it, the moonshine runners out in the mountains, and
Mhm.
moonshine and bourbon and whiskey were big back in
Mhm.
those days. So to celebrate that, I guess I'm having myself just a simple Jack on the rocks.
Nice.
You try to tie it in the yeah, it's fine. It's good. Yeah,
Yep.
come with this. Okay, nice. All right. Well, that's
And
I'm
it
glad
certainly
you're
fits with
representing the
the
whiskey.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say it certainly fits with the theme of our show. So, well done you.
Hmm. I'm also drinking a gin and tonic of sorts.
Mm.
It's I don't have limes, so I do have tonic water, but we also have Liquid Death, if you've
Ooh,
heard of it.
Oh, it
my.
sounds
Liquid
really
Death,
good.
yeah, it's just canned water.
Okay.
Most you can get it. I think in still Ashley gets it sparkling or whatever, and there's you can get it in different flavors. This one is called Severed Lime, and so it's a carbonated water with lime in it as well. So I thought that was kind of fitting for a sort of a G&T. If you've
Absolutely.
never looked at this, I want to read you like the side of it. It's
It's
fun.
got a
So
really
Liquid
interesting
Death,
backstory.
yeah. This ruthless tall boy of flavored sparkling water is armed with agave nectar and natural electrolytes to refresh your body and murder your thirst. That's all it's all about, murdering your thirst. So,
The
Thirst murder.
If you look up that
mhm.
company, because I found that in a grocery store. At first, I somebody was trying to get me one when I was hungover, and I was like, I'm not drinking that. Like, what do you? No,
Right,
no. I
exactly.
didn't know what it was. I was like, no way.
Sure.
Yep. Looks
And
like a beer.
true, and yeah, and true to that nature, that company designed it so that it can be sold at rock shows to DDs, and people would think that they're drinking
Oh,
drinking alcohol, and they could like because it was always one of those like, oh, I can't believe you're not drinking. Da, da." So it was like,
Yeah.
sure.
yeah, so they just have it. They can still look heavy metal and rocking when they're
That's
Yeah.
drinking liquid death.
awesome. Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
That's
So,
cool.
yeah.
I'd support that.
yeah, that was a snippet. I'm pretty sure that was the snippet the CEO was talking about when they first launched that.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, that's great. We got 3 drinks that fit our categories and 3 different ones. So, good
Mhm.
work all around. Our weeks, entertainment-wise, pop culture consumption.
Mhm.
Tony, we can start with you. Like, what have you been diving into? What have you been
Oh,
eating up?
I live such a varied life. You know me, John. I could name millions of shows that I've been watching, but
Wow.
no, I had to scrape the bottom of the barrel. I mean, I couldn't remember really much of anything that I'd been watching because a lot of the stuff that I intake is either old shows that I used to watch because I feel like watching them, or they're new ones sprinkled in. But I did go to the movie theaters for the first time in a while. my wife and her friends wanted to go see a movie. They were celebrating her friend's birthday, and they wanted me to tag along. And of course, I was like, yeah, sure. So we went and saw The Lost City with Sandra Bullock and Channing Tatum and Brad
Yes.
Pitt. And that movie, it was funnier than I expected that movie to be.
Mhm.
Um, and there's like Channing Tatum is obviously, very charming. He is lovable. He kind of plays that like lovable goof character in that movie. Daniel Radcliffe was in. I did not know Daniel Radcliffe was in that movie. I knew nothing about this movie before going to see it. And he shows up and he plays the villain, and I was like, "All right, I'm in. Like, let's let's see what he does." It's it's
So, like,
he
ultimately, thumbs up?
I would say it's entertaining. I would say
Okay.
it's very entertaining. Um, yeah, I enjoyed it. Other than the Lost City.
Well, hold on now. We were talking pre-show about
Okay,
Daniel Radcliffe, all right?
yeah.
Now, you enjoy Daniel Radcliffe in this role. Andrea,
Is
you
he
were
is
kinda
he a good
defending.
villain?
Yeah.
So I don't want to bash Daniel Radcliffe because I actually like Daniel Radcliffe. But did you ever see Now You See Me Too? I think is what is it? Now You See Me.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
So
I
he
really
plays the
liked the
villain in
first Now
that.
You See Me, but I was like, this premise is completely played out for me. Like, I was not willing to like move into a second one. So I have missed the glory or not of that movie.
I will I will agree with you on that. I saw the second one because I liked the first one,
Sure.
and then I kind of realized probably didn't need a second one.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
Um.
The first one felt very complete, and I was just like, I'm really good. Like, you did a great job with this premise. Like, you took it all the way, and I feel great about it. So, thank you.
Oh yeah. And the suspension of disbelief is there
Mm.
in the first one, which I think is like
Yes.
huge
Yep.
in that type of movie.
Exactly.
But they had like Daniel Radcliffe plays the villain in the second one, and the character he plays in the Lost City is very much like an extension of that character.
Okay.
So I feel like he plays the character well,
Okay.
but it's almost like the same character. Now I
Sure.
say that with let me put some context behind that. I haven't seen Now You See Me Too for like a year and a half, 2 years, so
Sure.
I could just be kind
Oh,
of like merging the two characters together.
that's relatively
Sure.
recent, yeah. Mhm.
See, I haven't seen The Lost City. I plan to. I'm not sure whether or not I would like go out to a theater to go see it, or if I might just like wait and feel like it'll be on streaming at some point. Like, I'll see it. Um, but so what I guess I envisioned his villain to be would be like a comedic version of a villain. You know what I mean? Because the whole movie is like clearly goofy and funny and charming. And I just didn't see him playing like I just sort of imagined him not playing a straight villain where it would be
Well,
like a caricature of a villain. You know what I mean? Just somehow it's like ironic or funny or just like not well done or something. Like I just don't see it being like and I mean that in a way that's not like casting aspersions on his acting abilities. I just mean it in a way that's just not like we're committed. He's an actual bad guy, and
Well,
he's going to
yeah,
be like a really good bad guy. So I
I
just
get what
sort
you're
of
saying.
envisioned it being comedic. So I just thought like he is a really great comedic actor. Like he has great comedic chops. Like I adore him on Miracle Workers, the TV show, and I just think he has amazing comedic timing. So I just thought it would translate. But yeah, I could see him not being like a great straight up like he's the villain.
and it's funny you mentioned that. The reason I said it's kind of the same thing is because it was a comedic villain and Now You See Me Too, and I don't know if it was supposed
Oh.
to be.
Oh, well that's terrible. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
here I feel like it should fit. And Now You See Me, it's like, no, that's real. Like that's, they're trying to play it straight. So
And
that's a
that
Maybe that's what
terrible
gave him the other
choice.
role.
Yeah. I mean that 100% could be. And that's where like in this one it fits. Like you feel like he does like 'cause I like Miracle Workers too. I think he does like really good in that kind of like lighthearted comedic. He's not taking it,
Oregon
super
Trail just
seriously.
like slayed me.
I
It
gotta
just
watch
it,
that one.
you haven't watched it yet? Oh my
I've
god.
only seen the second series too because the first one like I didn't really
Yep.
get into it, but then when the anthology when they're back in like the dark ages, I watched that one. I
Yes.
thought that one was really funny.
Yes, that's where Chris and I started. We just were like, "Well, it's okay because they start over every season,
Yeah.
so you don't have to watch the previous one." So we watched, I can't remember if it was Dark Ages or Middle Ages or whatever, and then went back and watched the first one, and then we're ready when Oregon Trail came out. Definitely do not miss Oregon Trail. Do not. It is so, so good. So we were talking pre-show about I had a funny story about Daniel Radcliffe and my 1-year-old daughter. So the other night, she was fussy and I went down to go get her. And usually when she's fussy at night, she calms down when I sing to her a little bit. So, I sing a variety of things like between like kids songs that she listens to, or I'm a huge,
Metallica.
I was
Death
going to say I'm a
metal.
huge Metallica fan. So
Yeah.
Chris, Chris was listening to me on the monitor the other night sing Enter Sandman.
I was gonna
And he
ask
was
is
just
it
like
Enter Sandman?
freaking giggling. But the other night, I started out singing like a kid's song, and then, my mind wasn't really with it, so I was just like continuing to sing, but not really thinking about it. And then I kind of came back to myself and realized I was singing "She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain When She Comes," which Daniel Radcliffe does an amazing, crazy, like just drugged up version of that on Oregon Trail. He's like a whole in a nightclub and he's got like glitter makeup and he's like doing a whole thing. Watch that scene and get back to me because that's what I realized. And realized I was singing it like that. I was like singing it this whole like disco dance tech version that he does in the show. And I was like, oh God, if Everett knew the context behind this, like Daniel Radcliffe and
Someday.
glitter makeup, wearing leather assless chaps and singing "She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain." Like, oh boy, this is not kid appropriate material.
Someday it'll be a good
Someday
story.
she'll know.
Mhm.
She'll know.
Yep.
She'll watch this episode of the podcast and then she'll be like, "Well, I got to go find out what that is." So,
Sure.
Well, Lost City, I'd like to see it too. I think looks fun. Is it coming? I wonder if it's coming to a streaming service soon and
Give
who
it
that
10
would be
days.
under.
I bet
Yeah,
it
right?
I bet it
That's the way
will.
it seems to go.
Well, Paramount, because I think it's a Paramount movie, and Paramount's knocking their
Is it?
contracts from 90 to 45 days. There's an article in the Hollywood Reporter about Tom Cruise, and he's
Mhm.
was up in arms because they wanted,
Top
what was it,
Gun?
Mission Impossible 7? They
Oh,
Mhm.
wanted
okay.
to take it from a 90-day run in the theaters to a 45-day run in the theaters, and he's like,
That's
no, I want the full 90 because he gets paid on ticket sales. He doesn't get
mhm.
paid
Right.
on streaming. Um, and they're like, well, all the money is usually made in 45 days instead of 90. And so, I mean, it was a good insight into like how the entire industry is like reshifting their business model. Um,
Mhm.
a lot of people are upset about it. Not the
Yeah, we've
consumer.
talked
We don't
about
care.
those a
Mhm.
number of times, the way that they kind of have, like you say, are shifting business models. But definitely is one of those things where you need to be looking out then before you make these contracts.
Mhm.
If this is of course, if this is not yet settled, then so be it. But we ran into that obviously with Black Widow,
Right.
where oh no, we're gonna release this day and date or whatever, and then we also had a debacle with HBO, where
Mhm.
for when their Max was launching at first, all their movies were going to come day and date to, and it's hard to judge the success because
Right.
then the Hollywood papers, they get the theater numbers. They don't they're not obligated the companies are not obligated to share streaming numbers. And how they judge that. Are they generating new subscribers? It's a whole new system of polling and understanding, like, does this movie correlate with the new subscribers we got, or is it something else? Like, yeah, it's all kind of a mess. And it's definitely something been following to see where this. There's going to be some new thing. I think that will
Mhm.
be a standard. Just no one knows what it's going to be yet.
It seems right now like 45 days is the standard on most releases. It's not like set in stone for everything, but
Right.
they're kind of right now there's a unspoken spoken 45 days.
Sure.
So I just looked it up and Lost City is expected to stream on Paramount Plus around May 9th.
Oh, check it out.
Okay.
So way to nail it.
Nailed
Yeah.
it.
Well, I've been axing streaming services, so I don't know what. I don't know if I'll end up having that
Yeah,
or
John's
not.
gotten hardcore about
Paramount.
that.
Well, just because
Hmm.
John's going through another tech crisis.
Tech crisis? That's not relevant. Like I'm not
John's
saying
like,
I'm saying
"How
I haven't.
dare you?"
He's like, I feel personally attacked.
Tony's square
No,
just goes dark suddenly. Oh, I don't know what happened.
Oh,
Must
bummer.
be a tech
Anyway,
crisis.
yeah. All right, Lost City. What else? What else has been going on this week for you?
well, let's see. So I took some time off and picked up sim racing with one of my other buddies. So I got like a whole sim setup, got it for my birthday. So not like a super expensive one, but it's something I've always wanted to try, and it's like interesting. I've played racing games like my entire life,
Mhm,
um, but to get into like simulation, you got like iRacing, Assetto Corsa Competizione, and all these other types of like real world racing games. It's interesting to kind of see the economy around them, how they're kind of building up. Now you got these esports coming into play. Like they ran NASCAR during the pandemic. They ran NASCAR on sim racing. So it's like
Huh.
really interesting to kind of get into that world. So that kind of took up some of my time this week, kind of learning about that. I started Raised by Wolves because John kept telling me I should watch it, so I finally started watching it, and I was telling Mike, it's very like classic, I would say kind of classic noir sci-fi type.
mhm.
Um, you know, Ridley Scott, when I found out he produced it, I was like, oh, there's a lot of Ridley Scott-ness in this series and how it's shot and how the characters interact and the coloring, the music, the sound, everything is very much his style. Story wise, it feels like it's got a lot of those fundamental sci-fi aesthetics to it, which I really like. It's not like the new age sci-fi. It's a little bit, it's got a little bit of that classic in there. I like that. Um, and then I've picked it up because I there's a about a 30 to 40-minute time period in the morning when I'm eating breakfast and I have before I go to work or before I walk into my office and turn on my computer. Um, that I didn't know what to do. And normally I'd watch the news, but I'm kind of tired of getting depressed, so I don't want to watch the
Yep,
news anymore.
newsed out.
Yep, so I'm a little newsed out. So I was flipping through HBO Max, and I found they had the original Batman the animated series, like the 20
They
minute
do.
from like 1992, and I was like,
Yep.
no way. So I started watching. So now it's like every morning I have my bowl of Cheerios, maybe some eggs and toast, and I'm watching Batman the animated series for 20 minutes.
Nice. Nice. That's a good way to start the morning.
Yeah, yeah. And it holds up. Like story wise, I guess when I was a kid and I used to watch him, I only cared because I was like, it's Batman and he's
Right.
Right.
beating the villains up. And now like I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, there's like
It's like so
way
much you miss as a
yeah, there's
kid.
a lot more story here.
Mhm.
That's why like Batman I think was Batman and X-Men as well, though X-Men is less well produced. Um Sad to say it because I love it, but
Yeah.
um it it's was important I think for American cartoons because we weren't getting those kinds of complex characters and stories generally in American cartoons. That
Mhm.
was only coming from Japanese cartoons, and that's why Andrea and I have talked before. Like we're maybe the luckiest, like the golden age of cartoons in a way, because in the West, like our Saturday mornings were great. You know, between like Toonami bringing some Eastern flavor, and then Saturday mornings with X Men, Batman, and some other
Mhm.
classics. Like we were eating good.
Yep.
You know.
It was like a thing, Saturday morning cartoons. They were worth getting up for and, like, working to have that TV time set aside. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like, in I guess in my house, like, if I wanted to watch that much of a block of TV, like, I had to have, like, a certain amount of homework done and a certain amount of chores done, and then I could just, like, set that whole morning aside, and it was worth it to me because it was so
Yep.
good. You could not miss Saturday morning cartoons.
Oh no,
Yep.
I mean that was back when that's when I learned about Eastern and Pacific time zones because
Mhm.
I didn't know what time zone I was in
Yep.
at all. So I would like
Yep.
get on at 4 Eastern, and I'd be like, "Oh, it's 4 o'clock now. That's like it has to come on now." So I'd miss shows that time.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
but you're right. I mean, it was like that was at like 8 in the morning till like 11 was
Mhm.
just amazing every
Just
Saturday
golden
morning.
hours. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I
Yep.
remember that's also how I learned about time zones because that was the age of if you missed it, like, you were
Yeah.
screwed. Like, there was no, like, rewatch. There was no, like, oh, you could just
Yep.
pause the TV and wait. You
Yep.
missed it, and it was gone forever.
I had to go
And these
pick
are
up
the
that little
shows
book.
now that we're these are the shows now that we're continuing week to
Mhm.
week, as opposed to what American cartoons would be traditionally. Is you'd have your 20 minutes of
Right.
slapstick, and then it would be a whole new different 20 minutes of slapstick next week,
Right.
completely unrelated.
Right.
So you
Yeah,
wanted to
they
see
they
that
so
soap opera like
occasionally
story that kept going, and
yeah, I was gonna say they so occasionally had, like, one-off episodic, you could miss it
yeah.
and technically be fine even if, it was crucial and you came back next week and you were just like, "Oh." Like, you
Yep.
hoped you could pick it up.
Yep. Well, Tony, but your previous topic, shameless plug, we have a companion series talking all about Raised by Wolves. So
We
as you
do.
go through it, you can watch it along and see what we think, and then leave comments to let us know where we're wrong or what we missed.
Oh,
So
okay. I'll have
let's,
to go deep. See if your sci-fi archives go as far back as mine do.
oh, yeah. Well, okay. Let's see.
We
Lay it
do
on
we
us.
do get into some pretty good discussions, and we do, of course, have Shane on for a couple of discussions. I think we had Shane on once for season 1 and once for season 2.
And then Emily once,
Yep,
and wanted to have Mike on it for that sometime, but he was always way behind
yep, yep.
because the show's so philosophical. And it's always fun.
I
But
I'll tell you this. This is my shameless. I'm gonna say this. I'm using it to wash the bitter taste of foundation out of my mouth. Let's put it that way.
okay.
Uh,
I've sourced you on this show before as our
mhm.
foundation expert,
Yep.
talking about your disappointment in the show.
It's
Yes,
sad. It started so strong, I felt like. There were so
it
many
really
good
did.
there were so many good things happening and good people and good characters, and then I don't know how exactly it all fell apart.
It um yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, I don't want to deviate so far, but
yeah,
Well,
it
for
so
sure,
what
yeah. I
I
mean,
had said
I don't like
before,
drag us into,
like how
but
far do you want to go,
yeah,
Andrea?
no,
what
apologies.
I
I'm
summed up
queen of just like, let me just like take us right over here.
what I had summed up from your thoughts, Tony, is it seemed like it's just a show that probably should have never been adapted. It was adapted because it would draw some names, the authors, highly renowned name, the name of the book, and so they figure they make it and they draw in an audience this way. But it's not really a story that's well suited to being adapted to some other form of media.
It
Because I
it
remember
is.
talking to you, and you're
Yeah.
like, how are they going to do this? How are they going
Mhm.
to tell this story? It doesn't seem possible." And then you watch, and you're like, "Yeah, it's not possible."
Yeah. And
It
it's
didn't.
and what a lot of people don't know is that that's not their first shot at trying to do that either. I
Yeah.
mean, it's been decades. Like there's multiple times over the last 30 years or more that they've tried to get this sci-fi series to be made into a movie, right? And um for the longest time, the Asimov didn't even want it to be made into a show because
Mhm.
Sure,
it's
yeah.
just it's so like if you it is like 90% of the book is just dialogue, just
Mhm.
people talking.
Mhm. Yep. Well, that sounds like a lot of good stuff, Tony. I won't chastise you about the last thing you wrote in that you did this week because that's ridiculous.
Big Bang Theory is
Um,
amazing. Leave it alone.
but fifth full playthrough, what's wrong with you, man?
Oh yeah, dude. I have put that on repeat from season one, episode one, and I will just play it in the background. And
Yeah, I
I'll
would say
have it on.
it's got to be just background. Yes.
Oh yeah, I
Mhm.
mean I watched it fully 3 times. Like sat and
Mhm.
watched it. And now 4, 5, and I think I'm on my sixth right now is literally just background noise.
Yep.
Okay.
I have a couple
Mm.
like go-to shows that are just like if I'm having a day, and I just need like the noise, but I don't want to actually watch anything. Like I have a couple shows that are go-to that are just like this is very safe and familiar and like there are a couple interesting moments, but I can get my work done and it's fine.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is.
Yep.
Alan says The Office and Next
Yep.
Generation.
Oh, Next
Solid.
Generation. Yes, solid.
Solid. Yep. Yeah. The Office is definitely one of mine, much to Chris's chagrin, although he's learning to like bear
I
it.
I can't watch it. I'm one
Chris
of the
Chris really hates, like, awkward humor, and he hates being uncomfortable, and, like, the
yes.
early seasons are so cringe. Like, the later seasons, he can tolerate a little bit more because there's a little bit of,
The
like,
more
awareness
soapy.
there. Yeah.
Mm.
There's less just, like, hard cringe, but yeah,
Yep,
he
I'm
has
with Chris on
struggles
that.
with that. Yeah.
I can't.
I'll tell him.
I wanna watch it. I want to like it, but every time I sit down, I'm
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, yep. It's much easier when I go through, like, a Parks and Rec phase because there's still some cringe, but it's, like, so much less that he's
Mhm.
like, I tolerate this much better. Thank you."
Yep. Andrea, how about your week? Some at least one thing kind of connected to what Tony's been up to.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't get a whole lot new watched this week. Because unfortunately I fell ill. We are still experiencing the joys of a child being in daycare and bringing home all sorts of grab bag oh fun illnesses. Um so yeah, so I was kind of in the mood for something old school and comforting. And speaking of cartoons, I watched some more Gargoyles on Disney Plus. That was a cartoon I was super into as a kid. I loved it so much. And I'm going back and watching it as an adult is so much fun because I'm definitely like same thing, just picking up on so much storyline that I woof, went right over my head as a kid. Um, but I finally finished season 2. There were 52 freaking episodes in that season. I have no idea why somebody didn't think to like break
Split it
this
up.
up because season 1 is like 16 episodes or 13 episodes and season 3 is like 13 episodes and somehow season 2 is like an entire year's worth of episodes. Like I just don't
weird.
understand what happened and why even if they made them they couldn't have been classified into different seasons, whatever. But
Hey, it
anyway.
probably it might have been to its benefit because I always hated when the seasons would break and it would wait till like
Right,
basically school year started again till the next
till you'd get the
season. There
next
was this
thing,
big
yeah.
summer break or something. So if it
I
was able to
know.
just keep going, maybe then
I know. It's always been so funny to me when I think about like summer break for TV shows. That's like the worst idea because why, for kids especially, like we're all going back to school. Like why in the world would you like have like teen shows and kids
but they
shows and
time it outside of
cartoons?
normal school hours. So that's
Right,
why I
but
think
like you have
Saturday
homework
morning
and like
after school.
activities and family stuff. So
Yeah,
you have so
that's
much less
true.
time. So, I mean, I don't know. It's not like a really
I
big deal
agree.
because obviously,
I understand, but you're supposed to go outside and have fun.
Yeah,
That's what you're
you're
right.
supposed to do in the summer. So
I
well, you
know.
you guys are kind of assuming that I wasn't like a pasty shut-in.
no, I'm not assuming that. That could be,
I'm definitely not
just
assuming that. We just literally talked about the fact that like how hard I would dedicate myself to those like 3 hours of Saturday morning cartoons, like
yeah.
getting my
And
homework done, getting my chores done.
anyone that watches Big Bang Theory 5 times through, I'm not going to doubt is maybe a pasty face shut in. So,
You wanna talk
uh,
about Howard Wolowitz? Here you go.
yeah.
Tony's like, "It's my life, man."
No, no. No, it's yeah.
So anyway, um, yeah, that's always just been like a funny thing to consider for me because I always like freaked out about it as a kid. Like, what if I don't have enough time to watch TV because I'm doing all my
Yeah.
homework and I have to do my school sports because my parents maybe do at least one sport. So it was
Yep.
just always a mystery. But anyway, going back to this, I have finished the year's worth of season 2 Gargoyles episodes. I was very proud of that. Um, and then Chris and I watched our final episode of the Explained series, which focused on fairy tales, which was pretty fun and actually sort of inspired my choice of next show. Because the fairy tale episode was talking about Disney's first full length animated feature, Snow White, and the way that he animated that and like did different, like a whole new technique of motion capture to
Oh,
do
sure.
like especially when like the dwarves and Snow White were in that like dancing scene. That was just like so crucial to get that movement right and to mimic like human movements.
So was there a
Um,
rotoscoping thing?
I think so. I've already forgotten exactly what the term was that they were doing, but I just remember like an entire section of the episode being devoted to that, and I was just like, "God, that really was so cool!" Like when you show it like side by side with what previous animation was doing. So
Sure.
then that inspired my next choice of anime that I started, which is Welcome to the Ballroom. It's on Amazon Prime. And I basically chose it because it's like a show focused on dancing and like movement.
Okay.
Um, and
Interesting.
I really like it. I mean,
Good.
I'm only one episode in. The plot isn't overly complicated. This young boy starts taking ballroom dancing lessons. He kind of just like falls into it by accident, and ends up being really fascinated by it. But just the way that they bring that movement to life, but animated, is really
Okay.
fascinating to me. So I'm really enjoying that show so far.
Sounds like something that Studio Ghibli had put together.
Could be. I
They
Yeah,
honestly
do a
I
don't
lot of that,
know.
mean,
like, true to life type, animation styles when,
Hmm.
especially with food. Oh my god,
Yeah.
the food. I always get so hungry when I watch that stuff.
Ghibli really often focuses around a young female protagonist though, and there's a
Mm,
lot of fantastical elements. So it's like
sure.
a way to like explore, real world trauma or whatever, but then like bringing in something fantastical to but yeah, maybe I was thinking like Yuri on Ice. Have you tried that? I think that's always it's about the skating, the movement of the
Yeah.
ballet and the skating and stuff on the but
Yeah, I've always sort of like sidestepped any like sports related anime, although I did
yeah.
I can't remember what the one
There
I
was one
watched.
I remember you saying was really good.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
I don't
was
remember what that
focused
was.
around volleyball. And I
Okay.
loved it. I adored it. But yeah, so this one was just sort of like a little bit of, getting into like the sport movement, but ballroom dance. So it was just really
Adjacent.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I'll
So yeah, so
try
that's
that.
that's kind of all the new stuff that I've watched, and then of course I watched Moon Knight, as we'll discuss later.
Cool. Yeah, I've consumed a lot of anime again. Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. I finished. That's done. Season 1 is all done.
Mm.
For thoughts on that, you should go check out my last Ohio anime stream. Kind of reviewed that a little more for people. Non-spoilery, but ultimately I do recommend it. My Dress Up Darling is in English, coming to a close very quickly.
Mhm.
Next week is the finale, so I've seen the last 2 episodes now. It's still something, like, oddly charming about it. like it seems like a show for people that really have an eclectic hobby or want to get into cosplay or something and are weird about or nervous about it. They feel like there's a stigma attached to it or something. And so this show is kind of like feels like one big reinforcement of it's okay, be you, do your thing, follow your passion. Like that's what this show feels like ultimately. And so it definitely has its like cringy moments, like, oh, that's so awkward, but
Sure.
it's been fun. Um, Rascal does not dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. Again, with the names, but
What are you watching?
this is a really unique show. I think that I recommend this to a lot of people, or if you're in anime, this is a good one to pick up.
Mhm.
It's you would never have any idea what it is by the title, so I guess it's not a good title.
That's for
But
damn sure.
but this is becoming a trend in anime and manga for sure. Is the long drawn out titles, but often the long drawn out titles are being very precise. You know, they're
Mhm.
very like you know obvious and on the nose. This show uses kind of a supernatural element to tackle relationships, and the dialogue in this is written in a way that's different than a lot of anime.
Mm.
It's some of the characters are a lot more kind of upfront. It's some of the just the dialogue choices are just I don't know, they're interesting. But it's both emotional and heartwarming and kind of makes you think a little bit. Uh we've seen through episode 8 thus far, and it continues to be good. Um Wins to Sonic the Hedgehog 2.
Nice. How was
Managed to
that?
squeeze that in like the early premiere night last minute. So
I want to see that
yeah, it
so
was
bad.
good.
I do too.
Um uh it's if you like the first one, you'd like the second one.
Mhm.
I did a little YouTube short for this, like getting right out of the theater because they give you a poster and a comic or whatever, and it's I just it's amazing how the Sonic movies happen to be managed to be the best video game adaptations there are into movie form. Like, who would have thought? Like,
Ooh,
Sonic games can't even adapt
so
themselves.
bold.
is it bold? What even comes close? Let's be honest. I If we talk about animated series, we can talk about Castlevania. We can talk about Arcane, which I also started, by the
Yes.
way,
Arcane's
and
so
Yes.
good, so good.
so
Thank you.
I
Yes,
don't
I
I don't
love
even
it.
play League of Legends, and I think it's a great show.
I know. I know almost nothing about League of Legends, and I
yeah.
love
Nor
Arcane.
should either of you play that game. Right? Perfect.
Just don't even
But
play it. Don't even touch it.
yeah. But yeah, so Sonic 2 is great. It feels reverent. It feels like it honors what Sonic is. It's a lot of fun. It's a great family movie. Um,
Does it hold the
the
charm like
site
the first one?
it does. It absolutely does.
Okay,
It
good,
really does.
good.
Um,
So if
and
Jim
then
Carrey retires on this, it's gonna be okay?
I g- it's a Jim Carrey performance. It's a Jim Carrey
But, like,
role,
it's a good
and
movie,
yes, right.
you know what I
He
mean?
doesn't
Like,
retire on a flop or anything
okay,
like that. No.
okay,
The movie's performing well. It deserves to. It's a fun time.
good.
So, and there's yeah, Arcane, like I say, I started that
Yes.
because I turned Netflix back
Yes.
on for a bit so I can power through this
Do it.
and try to get through Kingdom yet. That kind of thing.
Yes,
So,
do it.
Oh, watch the
yeah.
IT crowd while you're at it.
Well, I've done that a lot.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I should just buy that one. I should just buy that.
Mhm.
That's classic. Um, and then Spy X Family, whatever that just started. That's a hotly anticipated anime show that
Oh, okay.
is now airing on Crunchyroll. Only episode 1 is available presently, and that's based on the manga.
Mhm.
It's good. It's about a spy, and he has to do a mission with a family that he doesn't have. So he has to get around that, and it kind of takes
So does
place.
he have
It's
to,
sort
like,
of
create a family?
yeah. He has to acquire a family.
Okay.
um, so
This is
I don't
very,
want to give
like,
anything
animated
away.
We're the Millers.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's gonna find
Yeah.
out what the meaning of family is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it looks so far it looks good. It sounds good. It's cute.
Yeah.
It's a little different. It's a different tone. It's set in what seems like a uh fake sort of Europe in I don't know, maybe the 1950s, 1940s, something like that. And
Cold War
yeah.
Europe or post-war, pre-Cold War Europe?
Mm.
Well, I mean, it's a made up world, so just
Oh,
Made up war.
aesthetically,
okay.
yeah, aesthetically, it's because
Mhm.
there's different nations. I forget what they are called. There's like a big East and West nation, and they're always
Sure.
at each other's throats and whatever, but they're made up and all that sort of thing.
Sure.
So yeah, definitely recommend so far off of the first one. And then we're gonna talk about something that is not really pop culture, but I want to bring it up because it's like been consuming me. I haven't really consumed a book or
Okay.
and been consumed by a book in quite a while. And because I
Okay.
started like four books, I'm in the middle of a couple different ones and stuff like that. But this one really grabbed me, and it's like honestly had me depressed. it's like it's called In Order to Live,
Okay.
so it's nonfiction. I have to keep reminding myself that it's nonfiction because it's so tragic and catastrophic. It's about a woman that escaped North Korea.
Ooh,
And
jeez.
so, in order to live a North Korean girl's journey to freedom, and by Yeon Mi Park, and I'm almost done. I've been like powering through it. It's just I was like I had to go to work out today. I go to
Mhm.
kickboxing, and I'm just like trying to like lift myself up because it's so heavy,
Sure.
but it's just an amazing story. So like if you're looking for a book to read, yeah, In Order to Live, it's a really good read. So
Okay.
yeah.
You didn't really sell me on that one, John.
Well, at
You
the
gotta come
same
at it a
time,
different angle.
at the same time it makes you obviously very grateful. Like it
There
makes
you
you
go.
very very grateful for the fortunate things we have in our own lives and stuff like that. Appreciate yeah. So it
It's
does
an
do that,
it's
but it's still stunning, like the the
it's one of
horrors that
those,
people commit.
human condition pieces, it's just,
Yeah.
like, the astonishments that people can achieve when
Mhm.
they're pushed to that limit.
Mhm. I mean, this would be an amazing book that I talk about on the podcast or whatever if it was fiction. It's just like it's like but it's so crazy that so many terrible things could happen to one person and that they could manage to yet persevere. So it really is,
Yeah.
they could make it into a movie or whatever if, it's incredible. So I'm sitting here back and forth like all afternoon, rotating between sadness, like on the verge of tears and like anger, and but it's worth it. So, yeah, that's my real upward note to talk. We're going to keep it on a downward trend for at
I was
least
gonna say, how
one
are you
more
gonna
story.
transition, John?
No, we're keeping it. We're going from real problems to like first world problems. The cancellation of E3,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
something that means a lot to something that's meaningless. E3 is canceled, but in context, E3's been around a long time,
Mhm,
and has been an important venue for developers to get word out about their games and for the industry to see what's coming next.
mhm.
And it's officially done, at least for the year. Are we sad about it? Are we surprised? Do we think it will come back?
I'll be honest with you, I forgot it was even happening. Um, that entire industry has had such an upheaval in the last 3 years that the fact that E3 had to cancel, it doesn't surprise me at all. It's the world has gone so digital so quickly in the
Mhm.
last 2 years that having these massive conventions, like don't get me wrong. If it was, I would love to go to E3. Like
Yeah.
I used to love E3 when
Yeah.
I was younger. It's you'd always be like, oh, what's the next big thing? What's gonna happen? Da da. Um, but now, like the fact that they can do these elaborate digital state of the game or state of the play or state of the company type programs now,
Mhm.
it kind of eliminates this need. Like, what is E3 really bringing to the table anymore? Than maybe a hands-on demo, but you can it allows you to reach such a wide audience, such a
Mhm.
broader audience, such a larger audience, um, in a digital era than the what, 20,000 people, 30,000 people you can pack through E3 in a matter of what, 3 days?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I mean,
guess I don't know, to follow that, I am surprised and not surprised. I am not surprised that in-person event was canceled. I'm a little surprised that there's no digital showcase. Like, even a pared down version of something feels I mean, not like I'm not shocked, I'm not like, "My god, what is happening?" But I'm a little like, "Oh, okay, so does this mean we're canceled for 2022? Are we canceled forever? Are we gonna, like, have a massive revamp in a couple of years and, like, a big, like, 'We're bringing E3 back, like, isn't it exciting? And this is our way to, like, kind of reintroduce it," you know? So, yeah, I'm not really sure what it means. Like I said, I'm a little surprised that there isn't some sort of like digital showcase happening or digital event, and a little sad, but ultimately not shocked overall.
Well, I
I mean, the thing is that, or you say, Tony?
sorry about that. I was gonna say that the conspiracy theorist, like part of me that kind of just wants to get awake here when you're saying stuff like that. They're like, oh well, they didn't have a digital, like, after show or whatever. Like they didn't have a way to move it to a digital platform. It's like, okay, well, the last 3 years should have told you to maybe have that in the bag. But I was looking online because I saw this in John's notes, and I was like, wow, I can't believe they canceled. But they didn't specifically say why it's been
Right.
canceled. And part of me is starting to think that they're going to try to spin it that it's possibly COVID related. I, I
They
don't
already did.
think I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. I think it has everything
No,
to do that
E3's been struggling.
I don't think they can justify it. I think the cost is too much. I think if you're in an economy that's going through an inflation period, gas prices are insanely high. Plane tickets are insanely expensive right now.
Mhm.
Bookings for hotels, all these things. So visitors are probably all taking that into consideration. They're like, what am I really getting out of this, right? Um, and I think on top of that, you probably have companies pulling out of
Mhm.
E3, and so they're trying to cover this whole thing as, oh, it's just another pandemic related issue. When I don't think there's any sign there pointing to that's the real reason why.
Yeah.
E3's been, there's been rumors for years that,
Mhm.
is E3 done? Is it going away? Is it, because to my understanding, it costs a lot to be there. You want to
Mhm.
be a vendor, you want to show up, it costs a lot. And what are they getting out of it? So for a smaller developer, some of the smaller conferences make sense because they need to network.
Mhm.
Bigger companies, they don't necessarily need to network in the same way. It's nice and they have fun doing it. People have
Mhm.
fun going. From a business sense, what does E3 offer? What does that group offer that
Mhm.
anyone can't do themselves? Microsoft has the Microsoft Theater. They can go and hold their own event if they want. They
Mhm.
don't have to spend the money to hold an event. Everybody just, they all the teams put together their whatever they're working on, whatever is ready to show, they come up with a reel anyways that gets just shown on screen on stage anyhow. Like it's just right. There's It's not for a need, it's just because it was fun and nice and got people excited. It
Mhm.
got people excited about gaming. Well, how much is that worth? And you can still generate excitement for things online, set the premiere, everybody can watch it. You know, Jeff Keely's still going to do his stuff, I'm sure. But
Mhm.
he has a lot of connections, and he uses this as an ad. He's using it as one big ad. He has the friends. I don't know. Jeff is probably not charging to get stuff shown there. People probably want to bring it to his event and have things. It's like the Game Awards. They want the promotion there. They have a good connection.
Sure.
It feels like a win-win. They're not charging hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever it is for their booth and to set up some elaborate, display. I remember Nintendo being there, and the Breath of the Wild's coming out and they have a whole big thing you can walk through, and it's really cool, but that's obviously very expensive. And does it
Mhm.
generate more sales for the few people that to get to go see it? Probably not.
Well, you bring up a couple of good points. One is the networking, right? And I think networking has changed because I mean half the time now you just shoot an interoffice email through Outlook because you're owned by Microsoft, so you can network with anybody you want. That's like part of it, right? You got these big umbrella corporations that buy all these different companies. You want to
Right.
network? Oh, cool. Call Jim in accounting. He has a cousin that works over in whatever studio. Um, but I think the other big part of this is take for example the company that I admire for how well they've been able to do these product releases and these types of showcases during the digital era is Apple.
Mhm.
Apple has done an unbelievable job at
Mhm.
platform, new computers, new product launches, whatever. Instead of doing like this in-person demo and in-person state, they just have a video and it's
Mhm.
really well shot and it's really well made and it's really well done. And I love it. I love sitting down for an hour and watching that because it's just high production value. It probably didn't cost them a ton of money to do that because they did it all in-house.
Yep. Yeah, you don't have to worry about this on-stage blunders, bringing the awkward people on to talk in front of an audience, and you have, teleprompter issues, or they're like clearly they've never worked on
Bobby's
this in
getting
their
the meat
life.
sweats. He's
Yeah,
should have had that
you know,
pastrami on rye for lunch.
obviously there's something to live and being there. Like if you were there in the audience when Keanu Reeves comes out to talk about Cyberpunk, that would be cool. Of course, it's
Mhm.
cool. But yeah, it's
I like how they quoted that in the article I read. They were like, "It's not like when Keanu Reeves came up and talked about Cyberpunk." I'm like, "Yeah, let's dig up that. Let's dig up that wound
hey,
again."
not a wound. That was awesome. What are you talking about?
No, that was an
I mean,
amazing.
just the release of
Beautiful.
The
Cyberpunk.
release of Cyberpunk was an
Yeah.
utter disaster. It was like No Man's Sky, but somehow worse.
I won't get into it. I won't get into it.
We could be here
I'm
for a long time.
I'm pushing all John's buttons tonight.
Tech blackout.
Mhm.
I'm having a tech. Eh,
Y-
yeah.
That's it.
mhm,
Oh,
mhm.
no more Tony.
Oh, bummer.
Well, something that is coming in the near future here has not been canceled, and shocking that it is returning.
Mhm.
Maybe E3 will do this someday, but right now the turn is of Devil is a part timer, the anime
Yes.
show that came out 7 years ago or more. I forget what it is.
It's
It
been
was
a
a
long
very long
time.
time ago.
Mhm.
I watched it recently. I know you'd watched it, Andrea, long before that,
Mhm.
and the cliffhanger it ends on is shocking. Just like,
Mhm.
really? That's where you're gonna leave it? And
Yep.
then everybody just loses hope that they're gonna make another season, and here it is, coming in July.
Lo and behold, that's right. How many years later? So hope exists out there.
Yeah, your favorite thing could always come back. We'll
Yep.
just hope that it's a good. I mean, they've had 7 years, it better be good.
Right?
Or I'm saying 7, it's at least 7. I don't know what
Yeah,
the time
it
is
honestly
actually.
could be longer because I can't
Yeah.
I can't hardly even remember when I watched it now.
Yep.
So, but I thought it was September today, so
Yep.
don't trust anything I have to say about
Mm.
time.
Okay. All right. Well, gaming to anime, and then let's make our move into Disney. We're going to be
Yes,
talking
let's do.
Disney stuff for the rest of the show here. Um, Disney Plus. Let's adding in censorship to this or alterations, how we want to look at it. I think it was last week we talked about how they. So, for those that don't know, the Marvel Netflix shows left Netflix and
Hmm.
made their move to Disney Plus.
Hmm.
And some people were like, wow, those are much more adult shows. That's a little surprising. I wonder if they're going to alter these things or not. If they're going to take some things out or whatever. Well, we saw one example, and these are not announced examples. They are found. So I
Hmm.
think that's something to note. They're not making this like, hey, we're changing this because we're proud and you won't care.
Hmm.
Um, they're just doing it. So the last one was what? It was with Falcon and Winter Soldier, a couple
Yes.
changes. Very odd, like removing blood in one from a minor character that
Hmm.
dies. And then some weird thing where a person kind of gets like impaled by a pipe or something like that, and they sort of cut the frame short.
Yes. Yep.
Um, this now is removing a tribute to Stan Lee from The Punisher. And so that's an interesting one. A lot of
Yeah.
shows have either a Stan Lee cameo or
Hmm.
reference or something. And so in The Punisher, they've now taken out their little bit about Stan Lee.
Hmm. Yeah. I'm not really sure what's going on here. These don't seem to be tied together in any sort of logical fashion. Like there doesn't seem to
Yeah.
be like a logical rhyme or reason to taking out violence, taking out a tribute to Stanley.
Yeah. It's not like, oh, we're going to remove all nudity or
Right.
sex from these or
Right,
some
exactly.
specific.
Nobody's gonna die. We're gonna like
Right.
imply, but we're not gonna like let
Yeah.
anybody actually die.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I mean?
Punisher
Like
is a lot shorter now. The show
Punisher
is
is a
quick.
couple cutscenes
Yeah.
and so yeah, so I'm not really sure what's going on because I was reading the article and it said they took out a tribute somewhere else. It wasn't to Stan Lee, but it was to somebody else from
Yes.
Luke
What
Cage, I think.
what was
Hmm.
the tribute though? Like what was he doing?
I don't
So
know.
this one here, this is according to comicbook.com that I have here. So um fans have noticed Disney Plus has edited another one of
Yep.
Marvel's shows while the content itself remains unaltered. One moment in The Punisher season 2 has been changed to remove mention of Stan Lee. Released shortly after Lee's death, the season finale of the show's second and final season dedicated a moment in the late Marvel icon shortly dedicated moments to the late Marvel icon shortly before its credits run. Um, the slide, which read "In loving memory of Stan Lee," is absent from the finale.
Mhm.
Instead, the credits just pick up after silence. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like him in there or something, or like it was literally just a screen
Yep, in memory of
that
Stanley.
said, right.
Yeah, that's
It, to me,
I
this like shouts a major disapproval of a show that they just put on their own service,
Right.
that they don't want Stanley's name attached to it.
Disney's 100% going through a a crisis right now
A
in terms of
weird
identity
but, like, a
because
weird crisis, like,
yeah,
what are these?
it's a crisis they brought on themselves, right?
Like,
Like they didn't nobody asked them to do this. They just
no.
decided to do it because so that this I was waiting for something like this to happen, right? Because they come out with Disney Plus. Now, full disclosure, I love Disney Plus. Like I do. Like I love it. I can relive my childhood. I can see the new
Absolutely.
Pixar's. I can see Star Wars and Marvel and all that. I mean, it's endless. But at the same time, Disney has this connotation, and they've always prided themselves on having this connotation of
Mhm.
being the family company, right? They're the company of magic, of wishes, of happy endings, of storybooks, all that type of stuff. But they've built an empire, right? Over the last, what, 15 years of not just Disney. They have some of like the largest, most well-known IP on the planet,
Mhm.
and it's not kid-friendly IP. I mean,
Mhm.
it's kid-friendly in the sense of, we grew up with it, right? We grew up with Star Wars, we grew up with
Right.
Marvel. Um, but to John's point, you're bringing in Marvel stuff and Star Wars stuff that's not kid-friendly, and you're hosting it on a platform where I can watch Mickey's Funhouse Christmas special and The Punisher next to each other on the same streaming service. Yeah, that's a contradiction of ideologies right there. So, you know, eh, I noticed it big time when all of a sudden I don't know if I like accidentally child locked my own account, but I have to put in a pin now every time I
Yeah.
log in um to get in. And part of me is like, yeah, because what are you expecting to have happen now? Because you know that they don't want to keep they want to keep making these good Marvels. They can't keep making Marvel PG stuff. It's been
Mhm.
PG-13 for a while.
Yeah. It yeah, it's always been yeah, it's absolutely been a growing thing. It stems what would you do? What would you do? You're Disney and you're in a good position, you're making lots of money and you have a dying Marvel at your footsteps begging to be saved. What do you're like, well, boy, they have a lot of stuff. Look at all the things we could do. What do? Pick them up. You take them in house. That makes sense. And then you start building your empire expands and then George Lucas has a lapse in all good judgment and once again and sells his IP to Disney. I Yeah, right. What are you going to do? And it's part of the reason why, in my mind, we have so consistently one note. That's why I'm getting super bored with Marvel stuff because it's just one note. It
Mhm.
has to be a certain tone, a certain family friendly, a certain. It can't go too far.
Mhm.
It's obviously not appropriate for like a Mickey would traditionally be for a 4-year-old or something like that necessarily,
Mhm.
but
There's a line.
there is, yeah. And so, yeah, what do you do? To me, it's like if admit that you're a multifaceted company now that
Mhm.
has things that we're going to be both tailored specifically to children and things that are going to be family oriented and things that are going to be more adult oriented. And you
Mhm.
segment those things. In Disney Plus, you can have sections, you can make
Like
it
every
more
other
clear.
streaming
Like
service.
Yeah.
every other streaming
Yep.
service, exactly.
And I think part of
You're
it. Oh,
it's
sorry.
just no, go ahead.
No, no, no. You go. Finish your thought. I'll go after you.
We're just going to get a lot
And then
a
I'll
lot
go.
more bland. We're just going to have a lot more bland. It's going to be all vanilla. It's going to be all when it can't, it's
Mhm.
got to fit into a specific bracket. We're going to have things that are both in turn less family friendly and things that are in turn not designed for adults. And it's just going to be somewhere in the middle and it's all going to be that.
Right. And here's where I kind of stand on this issue is I actually would take the side of Disney and say this is actually not on Disney to police their stuff. They should not have to police their own streaming service. If I give you a streaming service and it's got Marvel and Star Wars and The
You
Simpsons. I
give
mean,
me
I wasn't
one.
even
Okay.
allowed to
All right. That
watch The
one.
Simpsons as a kid. The
Right.
Simpsons,
Yeah. Right.
all these.
Same.
You
Mhm.
know, yeah,
The
I'm giving
kids
it
were
to
too
you.
much of a brats. Like, every time Bart does something, and parents you have to say, "Hey, you can't do that. Hey, you can't do that. That kid would be in trouble." Like you can't talk back like that. Like every time. It's not whatever.
But it's on the parents. Like there's a weird sentiment going around. I don't know why this all of a sudden got dropped, but if on me as a parent, right, to understand I have a streaming service. It's Disney. That doesn't inherently mean that everything on that streaming service is okay for my child to watch. But if you give me the controls, right, I'm not asking you to like remove blood or remove my ability to see a dude getting impaled by a pipe, which is awesome. And I'm sure when my kid turns 13, he's gonna, or she, when I have one, he or she is gonna probably love watching somebody get impaled by a pipe because it's gonna be an action movie, right? But until that time, yeah, put a passcode. Put put that rating on there like every other streaming service, like
Mhm.
Andrea said, and just let me put a login in there, right?
Mhm.
It's this is not something where I have to cater what I make to reach the broader audience, right?
Mhm.
The was it the amalgamation of what everyone likes but no one likes?
Yep.
Yep. Yep. I've ranted about that too much, so I won't start now.
No,
Andrea, save me.
it's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna like wrap up some thoughts here. I think, for one, I agree with Tony. There's no magical way that Disney could or should have to have a service where parents can just log their kids in and all content is fair game. Because no parent in the history of the world has ever agreed that, like, their 2-year-old can watch, Mickey Mouse, and their 2-year-old can watch like a Marvel movie, or like even like a cartoon like Gargoyles. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's on Disney Plus. It's a cartoon, like it's on Disney. It's not Marvel. It's not like blood and guts. But like, I'm also like, my 2-year-old probably shouldn't watch that. Maybe I'll wait till they're 5. So there's no concept of a Disney Plus that should or ever could be made for kids of all ages. There's no like blanket whatever. So
Mhm.
start from that viewpoint and just be like, "Yep, cool, like parents can decide and we'll let them like put a lock on, whatever they decide." So I find that the concept of like Disney trying to be Disney and like be everybody's like conception of Disney ridiculous. So just don't try.
No. Yeah,
Otherwise,
well,
what's the
100.
point in acquiring these properties? Like, you're just setting yourself up for failure. Um, I find this like censoring that they're doing entirely illogical, because there's no through line to censoring like a guy dying and getting shot and blood and whatever, somebody getting impaled on a pipe, to removing a tribute to Stan Lee and removing a tribute to somebody who worked on the production of Luke Cage. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, there's no, you know what I mean? Like, if I was going
Yeah.
through and saying like I need to clean up these shows, what's my through line and what's my logic from like impalement and death to tributes to people who have actually died?
Well, it's the
So
same
whatever,
concept.
yeah, all I'm saying is like whatever censoring is happening here, there's no logic to it. So like, why are we doing it?
Well, I like what they did originally because they had like Steamboat Willie and Dumbo, right? And those were, you know, Disney movies from way back in the what, like this 60s, 70s, 50s, that era. And
Way earlier,
cartoons like from way back in the era.
like
Let's say the
20s and 30s.
yeah, like the era is back then. Before we were born,
Yep.
they were not anywhere near what would be considered
Appropriate.
politically correct or appropriate in today's day and era. But what Disney originally did is they acknowledged that. They said, "Hey, these there's stereotypes or there's imagery in these movies or in these cartoons that were acceptable when they were made, but we look back on and we rather use it as a way to shine a light on these issues than to cover them up."
Mhm.
It's like perfect. That's a logical response to that
Mhm.
thing, to that situation, right? You're not going to go back and re-edit Steamboat Willie out of it. Basically, you'd have to make the entire thing one. I don't even think you could make Steamboat Willie.
You could literally just make Mickey Mouse like
Just have him
steering a
dancing.
steamboat.
and that's it. That's the
And
3-second
scene.
clip.
Finn.
Scene. It's like, but they acknowledge that. I'd have more
Yep.
respect for Disney to say we are providing you with some really really good
Content, yeah.
entertainment, but it's on you to recognize that there are themes and there are imageries in these Marvel movies and these Star Wars movies and these more older kid cartoons than maybe you want your
Mhm.
3-year-old watching. So just be a parent.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Communication is
everything Disney's ever made isn't just like there's no, I think, agreed upon definition of Disney where you could show everything that they've ever made, even things that they consider like kid appropriate, to all ages, like literally all ages. Do you know what I mean? There are certain things that they have made that I feel like people have agreed to and they've sort of latched onto and spread the idea that like these core few things that like all ages can watch is Disney. And that's
Mhm.
they're most successful because the most ages can watch them, but that doesn't mean that like that is the essence of who they are. That's not their like sum total. And I think we just need to move past that.
Everyone still has
yeah,
the
it's
idea that they're
just
Snow White. They're not Snow White
Right.
anymore.
Right.
it's just what
And
they
even Snow
want
White is,
to
like,
be though.
scary. Like, I'm sure, like, a
Really
2 or
scary.
3-year-old, like, that whole scene where the witch is, like, climbing up the mountain and the dwarves are, like, chasing after her, like, in the storm and the lightning, and she's like,
Mhm.
and then she, like, falls to her death? Like, that's probably some scary shit to a 3-year-old. Like,
I
I don't
actually
know,
still
I
can't
might
watch
wait.
Dumbo. I
I
can't
know, I
watch
can't
Dumbo.
either.
As a 33-year-old, I
When that
can't
whole
watch
circus
Dumbo.
comes down, oh, man.
No,
Yeah.
man.
No,
It's
I know.
so
I know.
it's I can't. I think it's because I was just traumatized watching that as a kid. It freaked me out.
I know. See? That's what I'm saying, like, there even though it's Disney, like, there's still a certain age level where it can traumatize you as a kid,
Mhm.
and it's considered, like, child appropriate. So just, like, everybody should just give up the notion that Disney is just, like, blanket child appropriate.
Yep.
It all comes back to what you originally said, Tony, that they have a crisis of identity right now. Like
Yep.
they want to be able to use the idea that they've put out there themselves for many, many years.
They've cultivated it.
They're a family, yeah, yeah, absolutely. And they support that idea. We're the family-friendly company, where magic lives, and it. A lot of companies could avoid a lot of issues if they just communicated and were honest with their consumer base. Just say what we are, like admit that it's okay, like admit these things. It's all right.
Mhm.
But they don't want to let that go. They don't want to
Sure.
let that go. And then in the meantime, everyone's going to call them out for anything extra egregious,
Mhm.
and they frankly deserve it. So they get their ship straightened out. I don't know.
To,
So
so it feels like we're all, like, on a Disney should get over itself moment here. To wrap this up on a lighthearted note, I noticed in that article there was a sentence that like Hollywood Trades suggested that the Falcon and Winter
yes,
Soldier edits were a technical glitch. Does anybody buy that?
I don't know. I don't.
Anybody?
I what a technical
They're so
glitch of an intern. An
specific.
intern is a technical glitch. This some stupid intern went in and
Right?
removed all the blood effects from this scene. I don't know what. Yeah,
Like two specific glitches like that. I mean, come on now.
I
I
feel
don't
it's
know.
yeah.
like
I feel like it's also
that.
like a let's run with it and like see if anybody believes it. No, okay, all right. It was a
Here's the
choice.
thing that people got to realize now. We're not. I don't want to insult a bunch of people, but I'm going to. We're not our parents. We're not boomers. Like, if you say that to somebody who didn't grow up with technology, who doesn't
Right.
understand how this stuff works, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it makes sense,"
There could be a yeah,
and that could
a
be
sense of
fine,
believability there. Yeah. For
right?
us, we're
Yeah,
like Yuki.
I could totally goad my mom into believing that, 100%, and that's not on her. She's just not technically apt, and that's
Right.
Sure.
fine. But to say that to us, I'm like, that's insulting to say that to a generation that grew up with techno, like this is
Right.
all our entire childhood is
Right.
this. So don't sit
Right. Tell
there and
me
try
about
to
that
spin
technical
that.
glitch. Like
Yeah.
what happened?
Well, in fairness, and that's true, who's going to be paying attention to the Hollywood trades? It's
I
not
know.
gonna
I just
be people our age. It will be the boomers, so it's gonna
Yeah.
be
well, that's
so
just like the fact that it's like slipped in an article like this is just like,
yes.
yeah.
We had some technical problems passing the mainframe through the bit rate to the matrix. It's like you don't know anything about computers.
Yeah. All
Uh,
right.
Steve went and
Well,
unplugged the server.
we've talked a lot about Marvel already. We're gonna talk about Moon Knight. Yet
mhm.
I'm gonna skip over the Doctor Strange thing unless someone has something big to say about it,
I
other
get tied
than
Um,
into the
like
Moon Knight thing.
yeah, I mean, I want to dive in right into Moon Knight. The only thing I want to say about this Doctor Strange trailer is that I was and spoiler-ish alert, I guess.
for the
I
trailer.
was well, I mean, just in case nobody's seen
In case
it.
you don't watch
So
the trailer, sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you totally want to go into Doctor Strange being surprised about anything, um, I was surprised to see that Wanda's twins make an appearance in the trailer.
Mm,
And so it made me a little bit intrigued because we've talked at length before, I think, about how the Marvel TV shows are not meant to really inform the larger Marvel movie universe. You're supposed to be able to like carry on without them. They're
yep.
just like nice context. So this to me was kind of big, I thought, and it gave me a little bit of hope for maybe tying some things from the TV series. I mean, I'm not like thinking they're going to reference the entire WandaVision show, but perhaps there are a few things that those of us who have watched and loved may see, may recognize, and I won't lie, I'm still they're eternally hopeful for white gray vision to be somewhere. So,
Okay.
just saying. I
Yeah.
was surprised to
I
see the
mean,
twins make an appearance.
I I think they'll do, I think that's supposed to be the point is if you've seen the other shows, you will get those callbacks, you get those moments. It will mean more when you see them in the movies, but it won't be required. You just will like, oh, they'll
Yeah,
explain enough that they'll explain
the
it
average
enough
viewer will be
and
like,
but
"Oh,
it'll have more impact for you if you've seen
mhm,
the previous content. Um, I hope this one's good. Of all the Marvel movies coming, this one is the one that should have the best chance of being good. My ultimate, um, you know, cross my fingers is that they let Sam Raimi do enough Sam Raimi
mhm."
to this movie.
I like Sam
Marvel's not
Raimi.
particularly, oh, let's invite in a new director. Like obviously DC has their own problems, but they invite in a director
Sorry.
to make something like the Joker or the Batman or whatever, and it can be radically different than something else. Like
Mhm.
here's your make your vision in a sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen,
Yeah,
but
vision.
there is some of that. Marvel doesn't really generally have that. It's a
Yeah.
very like this is what is Kevin Feige's vision and
Mhm.
what does the studio want to do, and you're going to be our puppet to make that happen. And
Mhm.
so I hope he has had enough free reign to be able to make something that feels like a film he would make and make something a little different.
I I'm curious as to what Kevin's vision is. Um, so watching, so let me kind of preface this with some context. So I'm watching Moon Knight. Um, I liked it. I've liked the first two episodes.
Mhm.
But my problem with Marvel lately is um, a lot of us are getting a little marveled out, and I don't mean
Yeah.
that in a bad sense. Like I'll still watch Marvel stuff because I like Marvel. I like the characters. I grew up with the comics. But as an example, my wife's medical classmates, majority of them are actually in their early 20s, so they're 10, almost 10 to 11 years younger than us, and it's interesting to
How
hear
dare
them
you
talk
age me?
about. I know, right? um, and it's interesting to see how they kind of talk about Marvel stuff because we grew up. I mean, remember we grew up with this Infinity Arc. The Infinity Arc was
Mhm.
like that was when I was in high school, all the way through to when I was like 6 years old, right? Or 20, how many years? It's insane how long that was.
Yeah, really the college years for us, really.
The college years and
Yep.
Yeah, it
into
was the
into
college
young
years.
adulthood, right? And I started watching it when I was in high school, was when I think Iron Man came out. And so we came up in an era where box office and movie theaters were still a thing. Like we get together as groups of our little cliques that we had in high school, and we'd go see the new Iron Man or the new Hulk or the
Mhm.
new Thor and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, but now we're in this era where streaming is so accessible, and they can make these longer production runs, like Moon Knight. Um, they did it with The Mandalorian. They've done it with WandaVision. They've done it where they can make, instead of a 1 2 hour movie, they can do 8 10 hours of content for one character. And
Mhm.
so we grew up where it was kind of movie and then a movie and then a movie, and it was like, oh, what's coming next? Oh, how are they linked? Oh, and then all of a sudden, as we got older, it's like, oh, this huge thing unrolled, and it was this massive universe, and everything's interconnected, and it grew up to this end game, which was like this cacophony of just majesty in this
Mhm.
finalized movie that
Mhm.
encompassed 20 years of Marvel excellence, and it's just like
In a pile
insane.
of shit. In a pile of steaming
Shut
shit.
up, John. I liked it.
Yeah. Tony's blacked out again.
I know you guys both liked it.
I did, but I think setting aside liking it or not liking it, there is something that you appreciate about the way that this was all planned. Like
Yes.
having come to the end of it and seeing the inner linkage. Again, if you don't like cogs in the machine, like fine, that's totally fair. But to be like, my God, the years of planning to do all of this, to release this, get the actors, get the people, get the storylines, get the teasers at the end, and then have it all culminate in this giant, like Tony was saying, like cacophony of amazingness of all these characters coming together. Like again, regardless of the amazingness of the plot or the story or how you like it, all of these characters have come together in storylines that make sense for them all to be here. That is an amazing work of, you know, somebody's mind, but probably many minds as well, but
Yeah.
all like driving this machine to get here.
And so I wonder then, moving forward, that's done. I mean, it's kind of like,
Mhm.
all right, we did it, man. I mean, we lived through it. We got it. We're done. We don't need to have another one of these. But then I see them doing these things where they're doing Moon Knight and they're doing the
Mhm.
Eternals and they're doing Doctor Strange. It's like, are you trying to restart that process again, where you're bringing new
Mhm.
characters in to create a team, to create another story arc, to do all
Mhm.
this stuff, or what are you doing right now? Because what I don't want Moon Knight to turn into is what Boba Fett turned into.
Mhm.
Content. It was just content for the sake of content, and I was very disappointed in that.
See, I'm very worried that we're in a phase of Marvel that is one giant sequel. Do you know what I'm
Ooh.
trying to say? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're doing, like you said, they did the thing, they lived through it. It was amazing. Like they had a clear vision for the beginning to the end, and everybody was like, "Holy shit, like this is amazing. You've revamped superhero movies like for good or ill, you've got a formula that's working. We're loving it. It's the same, but it's different enough so everybody's happy." And now with the conclusion of Endgame, they're like, "Oh, that's only, part 1. Like we've got a whole new thing." But this whole new thing is just more of the same, but not as good in
Yeah, or it
some.
seems disjointed. Like it
Yep,
doesn't seem
it's
as
it's not the
clear.
big plan. Yeah, so that's what leads me to feel like this second phase is like a big sequel, and there are good moments, there are bright spots in this sequel, as there are usually in any sequel, but the overall effect is it's the same, but it's less.
We
It's
kind of keep
less
waiting for
well.
it to
Pick up.
form, right? We're
Yeah.
kind of waiting
Yeah.
for the formation to happen. You know, what's the through line Avengers that we're going to have?
Mhm.
What is that? What
Who is our
is the
core
threat?
Avengers? Where are
Yeah, we
they?
keep waiting for this and thinking we're going to get it somewhere, and we just get more tangents.
Yep.
So I have to read a bit of an article. It's a news story I kind of forgot about, but it's directly related.
Sure.
So this is again comicbook.com, and it is titled "Endgame Director Speaks Out on MCU's Lack of Plan."
Mm.
So Marvel Cinematic Universe has been going strong for nearly a decade and a half now, and it's showing no signs of slowing down. The sprawling franchise continues to work because every new movie and TV show connects into the same ongoing story, a formula that no other franchise has succeeded in emulating. It has always felt like there is a master plan over at Marvel Studios with Kevin Feige and the other producers planning the story out years in advance.
Mhm.
According to Avengers Endgame director Joe Russo, that isn't actually the case. Russo, who has directed 4 MCU films alongside his brother Anthony, recently spoke at the Sands International Film Festival and explained that Marvel doesn't have a firm plan in place for its future. Instead,
Oh.
Feige and the rest of the creative team simply have ideas in place. They have concepts as to where they want to go, but the results of the movies and shows they release really dictate on what happens next. Quote, no, the way it works at Marvel is, I'm sure at some point somebody will talk in detail about this, but part of Kevin's brilliance is that there isn't really a plan, Russo said. There is an idea, but you can't have a plan if the movie you're making tanks. There's no
Mhm.
plan after that, right? So it's really about as the movie succeeded, then there was some sort of enthusiasm about, well, what else could we do? And then that's when new ideas would come out. The director continued, and there were hopes, and we hope one day we can get to a story if you keep doing this, right? Maybe we can all get there like Infinity War and Endgame, but a lot of stuff was made up in between the movies.
So I don't. I think it is extremely bold of Disney to think they're ever going to get another Endgame.
Yeah.
They won't. They're not going to. Just
Especially if
like
you
we
don't
will.
plan for it. This
Oh
isn't
yeah,
shit that just you trip into and happens.
yeah. And it's the same vein of we will never have another Lord of the Rings trilogy put into cinema. Like that,
Oh,
we
we're
will
gonna
never
have it,
have
and it's gonna suck.
that. Yeah,
We're gonna have
yeah.
it.
You shut
But
your mouth.
but on that
I
level,
Bezos is
want
gonna
neither of
make it
those
happen.
things.
but like when you look at it though, the movies and the series that have shaped pop culture and have shaped cinema that fall into these realms is you have the original Star Wars 4, 5, and 6. Yes,
Yep.
I had to do the quick count in my head to make sure I said that right. Yeah, it was 4, 5, and 6. Which were huge sci-fi successes. You had the Lord of the Rings with Peter Jackson, which were, despite where your views lie on how true to the source material it is, was an astonishing feat of cinema in its own right. And then
Mhm.
you had the Marvel Infinity arc with the conclusion of Endgame. To think that you can just make another cinematic marvel as on a scale as some of those other movies by
Mhm.
we have ideas, and if we do enough of them it'll form something. That's not how this works.
Well,
It's just not how it works.
it's like the world's longest audience poll. Do you know what I mean? Like, if
Oh
this
yeah,
is
Yep.
yeah.
real and they're like, "We're gonna see what works and what people respond to," this is like the world's longest, like, throwing shit at the wall to see what audiences respond to, and then, "Okay, we finally have enough characters, like, let's go build our next arc." Like, no, you've already
Well,
tested too much shitty material on me, and I don't want it now.
mhm. Yeah,
Like, you've
I think
wasted my time with mediocre material. Go ahead,
I think
sorry,
we
I'm just,
had
like, mad
no,
about
it's
this now.
I think we had with their moments. Obviously, everybody wants to recreate them, but so often they're not recreated in the same thing. Someone else recreates the magic.
Mhm.
Star Wars 4, 5, and 6, magical, like you say. Lord of the Rings filmed all those things, these epics, all at once over in New Zealand on location. epic, amazing, new effects company that put on the map.
Yeah.
And then the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Well, what Russo is implying here to me is that this is what they have been doing. This is how they got to Infinity War. This is how they got to Endgame. But I think the magic that worked for them is that they happened to make mostly movies that were big successes. So they could keep going with their idea. They could keep fleshing this out. They could keep moving along. They didn't
Mhm.
have to divert. They didn't have to say, well, that movie, like one of the few examples would be like, they run into problems with the Hulk or whatever. Some movies that don't do quite as well, or Thor, and then they think we need to reinvent Thor a little bit. They change it up.
Mhm.
So they have a plan, and they are willing to change, but they put together the right talent to make movies that happens to all be successful. And so now they're trying the same tact that got them where they were before, but they're not putting together the right talent to make things that really land. And so they're a little bit lost now. Where do we go with their ideas? It's kind of like if DC would be in a different place if every movie they made was a huge success and everybody loved it. They wouldn't have to like shift. They could just keep going, keep the same Batman, keep the same Superman, everybody be happy. They managed to get that in the Marvel universe for a while. And once with DC, once you something collapses, then they're like, well, shoot, now what do we do? We put everything on this. We put everything on this and now it fell apart. Where do we go from here? And so it makes sense if Marvel's like, we're not putting all our weight on one foot ever. We're always trying to see what lands,
Mhm.
but they're not doing anything that really lands anymore. So they're rudderless. Where do we go now
Well,
when
it's
they managed to make it land before?
I'll say this. I think Moon Knight is the first original idea of a new phase that they've come out with in terms of introducing a new character. If we look at what's come out recently, right? So you had the conclusion of Endgame, and everyone's kind of in that, smoking a cigarette, kind of like, oh, that's good. Yeah, that was good. And then they come back and they say, okay, well, there's still some loose threads, right? There's still some fan favorites that we want to pay homage to. So they do a couple more Spider-Man movies, and of course, I love Tom Holland, and I've loved every Spider-Man. Really, I mean, honestly, they've all brought their own thing. You can goof on them. Sam Raimi's was just so Raimi, it was insane. I loved Tobey Maguire's version of that. Tom Holland does a fantastic job capturing that Spider-Man, but he gets his, and then of course Andrew Garfield. I like his Spider-Man 2 being a little bit more edgy and a little bit more
Mhm.
down there, down to earth. So you have this transition where you get the end of Spider-Man, right? He No Way Home concludes Tom Holland's arc as to him becoming Spider-Man, right? You introduced him at the late end of the Infinity arc. He's done. WandaVision, you introduced Vision and Wanda, late end of the Infinity arc. They got their conclusion. That's where that should have been, right? They shouldn't have led up to anything more. Doctor Strange came in mid Infinity arc, played his big part. They're using him now to kind of expand on this multiverse idea, which is why I'm like, okay, if you want to play into this, we can try it, see how it works. I see where they're going with that. Um, but really, outside of that, though, and then they had the Eternals. I, I don't know what they were doing with that movie. Like it didn't hit for me. Like I didn't understand why I should give a care about any of the characters in that movie. I didn't know where the arc was going with that movie. They introduced like three different characters outside of the Eternals in that movie, which have yet to be talked about at all
Mhm.
since then. And then you have Moon Knight. And Moon Knight, if I may, is actually catching my attention as something original coming
Yeah,
out
I
of
mean,
this.
let's get into it. We can obviously
Yeah.
throw in other things we want, but let's get into Moon Knight. We're running pretty long, so we won't belabor too much. But we do want to see what we all think about this show. If we're excited to continue and stuff like that. So yeah, go ahead, Moon Knight.
You want me to kick it off?
Yeah,
Yeah,
kick it
yeah, go
off.
for it.
All right, I'll kick it off. So I like it, and I like it because every kid inevitably has an Egyptian face. I don't care. Whoever it is, you always have this age where it's got to be between the ages of like 8 and 11, where it's like Egypt is the coolest thing on the planet. And it is. Like honestly, it's like such an interesting culture. It's such an interesting
Yeah.
part of the world. Um, and so you have this like Egyptian phase, and I think they're they kind of play on that. It's a mystique, there's mysterious. It's they got all these gods that come into play, right? Which is unique for the MCU actually admitting that there's gods now here that
Mhm.
we've never talked about at all that have somehow
Or
interacted
Steve
with
Rogers
either.
would be like, "Oh, no.
Yeah, right.
There's only
No,
one
no,
God,
no.
ma'am, and he doesn't dress like that."
Nice pull. Um, and so I think a couple of things I think in episode one, stood out to me is it was very Fight Club esque in how they decided to kind of do
Mm,
this interaction, right? Like he's having these jolts of time's passing and I don't know where I am, I don't know what's going on. And you kind of feel in the first part of this episode disjointed, where you start feeling a little like that character where you're trying to piece together, okay, is it him, is he a schizophrenic, is he having what's going on here. And I thought that was really cool how they kind of portrayed that, and then they actually had consequences to it, which is in Fight Club, when you can never tell if there's actual passage of time in Fight Club. You can just tell
mhm,
he's having these episodes, whereas here they have an actual like, yeah, he had an
Misses his
episode and he
date.
missed 3 days. Yeah, like it's a legit, and there's consequences to him doing that. And
mhm,
his character now has to deal with that situation.
mhm.
Um Ethan Hawke, God, it's so funny because I just watched a movie from the 90s, Gattaca
Oh,
with
okay.
Ethan
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hawke.
mhm.
And it's funny that you can still see, like, he looks older, but you're like, "Yep, that's
That's
Ethan
Ethan
Hawke."
Hawke.
And it's the cult like presence he had. The one thing I thought was hilarious is when he's walking through that crowd and people are like, I
Yeah.
always laugh because in my mind that's not characters reaching out to this, what Ethan Hawke character. That's just extras trying to touch Ethan Hawke.
I like that better. That tells a better
Yeah.
story.
Just extras trying to touch Ethan Hawke. That's all that scene was.
You'd
Um,
best believe if I was ever in an extra in a Dwayne Johnson, The Rock movie, that would be me. Whether
oh
he's
yeah,
a cult leader or not.
I would want to be one of the
Just
extras that he has to like catch,
hell
and
yeah.
be like, "Oh, never let me go."
You and me have different wants and desires, Tony.
We dream different, John.
Yeah.
Who's catching you, John?
That's I don't know. I don't want to have to be caught.
It's okay to be vulnerable, John.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, we had talked briefly about Moon Knight episode 1 before, but
Mhm.
oh, Alan's sharing a picture of Daniel Craig now. That's his
Nah.
who he's saying is supposed to catch me.
Could back that up.
I mean, is he wrong?
Ah, I still don't want him to catch me. All right, I just the awkwardness would be really, I don't know. I don't know
Would you
what
be
I would
the
do.
extra who reaches out though? Just
No, no,
no?
I just no, I don't know who I don't know who I would be so overcome that I would decide to invade someone else's personal space that
The
way.
the reason I said that, by the way, is there's a scene in the Hunger Games, second one, where she's walking through the crowd,
Mhm.
dressed up in District 13 or whatever, District 1 or whatever it was, and there's just one hand that comes out and grabs her shoulder, and it's like blatant that that is not part of that scene. That is an extra trying to touch Jennifer Lawrence, and that's why every time now I'm just like, that's an extra trying to touch the actor.
That's pretty great.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'd agree at a bunch of that with episode 1. Yeah, I liked Ethan Hawke in there. Really
Mhm.
don't know about some of the special effects. We're kind of talking before about how maybe, Disney does have all this money. It feels like they should be putting a little more into some of the effects. Chase sequence, there was a part that just looked kind of blatantly sped up or something, and some weird things like that. But I ultimately kind of like appreciated the difference in tone a little bit. Really liked the music a lot. Thought the
Mhm.
music was a fun variation. Um, I think that acting wise, everybody was doing pretty well. It did set my hopes up for what became so far a little bit of a disappointment. Like when we first reveal Ethan Hawke's character, he's taking a shot and breaking the glass and putting in his shoes to walk out. I was like, that's cool. That's pretty hardcore. I like the idea. That feels darker than what we would have
Mhm.
traditionally here. So for me, that was setting a tone and expectation. And the same with Moon Knight going a little crazy and then like seemingly killing a bunch of people or at least beating the hell out of them
Mhm.
when he's not aware. And so I was hopeful for a lot of those things. And in episode 2, I feel like a lot of that didn't follow through then. We moved back to lighter tone.
To
We
safer
brought
territory.
back yeah, we brought back humor. When we saw the fight sequences, we dealt with a creature. We didn't deal with, punching someone's face in. And then people were likening, was going all on the internet when the first episode came out. They were likening second episode to Deadpool and
Mm.
in Mr. Knight in his suit and stuff being a little goofier. Look at these batons I have and all that kind of thing. And it was again the they cannot resist. Instead of getting something that I'm hoping is like a dark, gritty take on someone with multiple personality disorders, all of a sudden we're thrown into I don't know. We're going to deal with this bumbling idiot for quite a while. He finally gets his suit on, and now he acts to act like a jokester. And
Mhm.
so to me, it just like completely reversed tone. And
think they're
I was
really
I
trying to
was pretty
Psycho
let
Colonel
down.
Sanders.
figure Colonel
Yeah,
Sanders.
exactly.
They're
Yeah,
I agree. I think it's too soon to say that's the way they're going to go with it. I think what they're trying to establish is the juxtaposition between these two characters. That you have the Moon Knight, which is Mark's character, right? That's what Mark
Mhm.
turns into, and then Steven, who you could tell is not. He doesn't understand. He doesn't have control. He doesn't. He's obviously lack of confidence. Obviously lack of self esteem.
Mhm.
Um, lack of personal hygiene, by the way, because you actually never see him take a shower in any of these for some reason. He just gets up and goes to work, then like goes to Zurich, and then comes back and goes to. I'm like, you don't even remember what you're doing. Anyway, so I think that's what they're trying to establish here, and I think what I'm hoping happens is as it goes on, we revert to a character development of Steven learning how to switch in between the two when it's appropriate.
Mhm.
what do you think, Andrea?
Yeah, I I'm kind of struggling with Moon Knight because there are elements that I am enjoying, and there are elements that I'm not. And I think what it's really coming down to for me is time. I get when Marvel releases these like limited series, I get really anxious about time, especially when they have something like this where it's like 6 episodes. That is not a lot of time to do stuff, and I feel like the first 2 episodes wasted some of my time, especially when we're talking about, like, episode 2 sort of reverting to very, like, safe Marvel, like, humor and, it's, "Oh, it's not as bad, we're fighting creatures," like, I felt like a lot of this kind of wasted my time where at the end of episode 2, I was like, "I have a lot of questions going on right now." Like, how on earth if, and I'm just being introduced to Mark, who is the Moon Knight, who is, Khonshu's avatar, who's bringing justice, um, who is apparently a mercenary on the edge of death, and Khonshu saved him. But like, why did he like how did he do it? Like how did he put him into Steven's body? Why Steven's body? Like how like is he really a
Is
person?
it
Is he like, does he really is he like Steven's some long lost twin out there somewhere? Did he look like Steven, or is this just like a facet of his soul resides in Steven's body? And like, do you know what I mean? I have so many questions right now that I'm not sure are going to be answered in 6 episodes, because we're already a third of the way through the series, and I feel like this funny humor time that was partially amusing. I mean, you do need a bit of like levity to break things up sometimes. I just feel like it was maybe dragged on like a little bit too long, and that's wasted time that could have been moving this plot forward.
well, is it by the way, is it Steven's body or is it Mark's body? Because his
I,
wife recognizes him
right,
as
so that's
Mark.
that's part of my question.
Well, it's
Like,
both of them though. With a multiple
well,
personality, it's both people's body, you know?
But we
Like
but
don't
then
who was
understand
the
but
if it's
then
multiple
but
first
is it just a
personality.
personality?
but is it just a multiple personality because like Mark was on the edge of death and was a mercenary somewhere? Does like is that a life that like Steven lived and he just doesn't remember it? Like if so, how does he have a whole backstory? You know what I mean? How does he have a mom that he thinks he grew up with? Like, is that his mom? Is that Mark and Steven's mom? Like, does
We
she
never
know
talks
Mark?
to
Does
his
she know
mom.
Steven? Like, I
He
mean, we
always
only
keeps
know
missing her.
right, I know. But
Oh,
you know what I'm
sorry.
saying? Like, so I'm just not sure like how these pieces fit together. And I would really love some of that to be explained. And I feel like we're already third of the way through this series. So am I going to get these explanations? And also, we have to, go fight Amit's justice priest cult leader avatar.
Yeah,
So yeah. So
a lot of
I like
yeah,
elements of the show. I just feel like I'm already anxious that like there's not enough time to do everything that they want to do and I want them to do.
sure. A lot of my complaints come down to still the way it's, you know, I don't know, the tone. It's still when I think of like a pathetic character, I think of like Joaquin Phoenix in Her, or
Mhm.
the guy in that rat movie. Forgot what that one's called. He's like has all the rats following him around and stuff like that. It's the guy. He's in Back to the Future and Charlie's Angels and stuff. Whatever. Yeah.
Which Charlie's Angels?
The
Oh, he
the
plays the dude that rips the girl's hair off and like smells it in Charlie's
Oh,
Angels.
Crispin Glover.
Crispin Glover,
yes.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fantastic actor.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. 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 All right. Yeah, I'm catching up with you now. Okay.
Alan says also in Gattaca. Um,
Crispin Glover's in
but even
Gattaca?
even when we talk about multiple personalities, I think a show that's so as ridiculous as Doom Patrol in season 1
Ugh,
did better
so
so far
good.
with the emotionality of multiple personalities. Or in the video game I played, Hellblade: Senua's Saga,
Mhm.
like there's a reality and a sadness, that a depression that can be conveyed with this. And ins- I thought they were going with a more genuine take and making something potentially very serious and impactful. And I don't think it's Oscar Isaac's fault, because
No.
I saw him in Ex Machina. Amazing. He's just an amazing actor. He can really
That's a
perform.
that's a trip
It's
of a movie, dude.
it's a great
Mhm.
movie,
It's
and you can be
amazing.
scared of him and think he's a terrible person or whatever, and we're just not getting that kind of back and forth here.
Mhm.
Like, and even Khonshu, what's scarier? Like the mummy from the 90s, Imhotep coming after you, he's gonna suck your soul out or whatever, dry you up,
Mhm.
or Khonshu, who's just kind of there and can't interact with you anyways. It's like
Khonshu is
I
like
feel
all bark and no bite. He looks
yes.
baller and does
Mhm.
nothing.
He's it's
He looks
they
so
there's
good though.
moments where I think like when he's running down the hallway and the lights are flashing and stuff like that. So that's kind of cool. But then immediately have to be like he has to be crazy in the corner And the woman's like looking at him odd. I lost a contact. Immediately, they have to bring the humor into it. It can't just be scary and something dark. It has to. I'm just so tired of it. Moon Knight is really cool. He
Mhm.
seems so cool. We just got the Batman, okay? And Moon Knight is like Batman in Marvel world. And the Batman is dark as hell. It's something different. It feels gritty. When I'm more enthralled, I mean, people make fun of him. I shouldn't, but Robert Pattinson or whatever, or I'm more scared of the Riddler by that dork, like they're doing something wrong here. They're not giving me the Moon
Then
Knight that I definitely was hoping
Moon
for.
Knight?
We're getting what's that?
So you're more scared of Robert Pattinson and you're more scared of Paul Dano, the Riddler, than Moon Knight or Khonshu or both?
I'm saying I'm so yeah, I conflated the two. I'm more impressed by Robert Pattinson and I believe his him more than I believe Oscar Isaac here.
Okay.
And as far as fear, Khonshu or any of the darker elements, I am
Mhm.
more terrified by Paul Dano's Riddler than what we're
Mhm.
getting here. It feels like they took it more seriously than
Sure.
the kind of joke they sometimes make it here. I
Mhm.
just it's always this yes, Willard, that's what I was thinking of, Alan. Thank you very much. So, hey, look, I get it. They're not making this for me. They're
Mm.
making it for mass audiences. And
Mhm.
I wanted a Moon Knight that was more akin to Batman and
Mhm.
not. There's less humor in Batman the Animated Series, a typical episode, than there is in these couple episodes.
Mhm.
That's true. As someone
I'm
who's been
just
watching it, that's true.
exactly watch the episode with
So
Man Bat or with a guy made of mud. It's more disturbing and
mhm.
scary than what we've got in Moon Knight.
Mhm.
And it's pathetic.
You know,
I am gonna disagree about believing Oscar Isaac less because I actually think I believe Oscar Isaac. I just don't believe his material.
Sure.
Do you know what I'm saying?
It
I
can be a
think
tough distinguishing thing. Yes.
yeah, I think he
Yes.
is doing the hell out of some some okay material. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say it's even bad. It's not bad. It's just
Right.
not probably living it up to its potential. I think he is doing like the best he can, and I think it's
Sure.
it's
pretty damn good.
it's A execution on C writing.
Yeah. Yep. Wonderfully put. Yeah, because I think there's like moments of great potential that aren't leading to great payoff. Like you said, John, there's leading us down a path of this is going to be darker, this is going to be scary,
Uh,
and then it just ends up being like semi.
Humorous. Yeah. Right.
Yep, it's either humorous or semi.
And there's moments like when he is talking to himself in the mirror and he smashes the mirror. That's pretty good.
Oh, at the end of
That's
two.
like that's a good moment. He's starting getting into some again a little more of the drama between the two and the difficult situation that he's in.
Mhm.
He's promised that his alter ego is not going to get in the way for Khonshu's goal, and they allude to they want to take his wife to replace him should he
Mhm.
like step out of line too much. So
Which is so just like, ugh, why? Of course we have to have stakes. Why does it have to be
yeah,
her?
I
right,
I
yeah,
I want them to play on this internal mental struggle that he
Yeah.
has, and I don't want what I hope they have is a scene where he's in public and it's Steven and Mark having an argument with each other and trying to take control, and you see it from the perspective of somebody who's not
Mhm.
part of this, seeing this guy almost have a mental breakdown.
That yeah, they're giving us almost that in these first couple of
Almost.
episodes.
It's
Like, obviously,
almost
when
there.
he, like, first meets Ethan Hawke, I forget where they are in Europe. Zurich?
Like, yeah, that's what I said. I
Germany?
said Zurich because it's somewhere in the Alps, and I'm like,
Some
oh, it's
yeah, right.
Switzerland. Looks like Switzerland,
Um,
but it could be like South Bavaria. Is
yeah,
that by the Alps?
so you obviously see him, like, being like, "Oh, here, do you want the scarab?" And his arms just, like, freaking oh, it's so
but it's
good. I
done in
just,
a
like
funny
It's
manner, right?
it is,
It's
but I
it's
also, like there was a moment of like it's funny, but I also just like respected the hell out of Oscar Isaac
Sure.
doing it because I just felt like that is so hard to look that good and that like astonished at your body to make it be purposeful and not purposeful.
Sure.
Well, and
Um
that
so
humor
like
fit.
what, sorry?
That humor though that John we're talking about here, that
That
humor
moment was
fit
like
that
funny.
moment.
Yeah.
Right? The one
Um
you were talking about where he's, like, getting backed up and all of a sudden he's in the elevator, that was like a jarring cut to something different.
yeah. So I feel like that the first part there was, us watching him like and Mark struggle a little bit, but we didn't know who Mark was yet. And then we have this second episode where like Steven's like, "Oh, the suit, the suit. Okay, I'm in the suit and I'm sort of the Moon Knight and I'm looking at myself slash Mark in the bus window and these tourists or other just like general bus riders are watching me have an argument with myself and also an invisible creature." Like it was almost like really cool and creepy and people were like, "What is this? There's nothing there. He's just a fancy drunk." Like, you know, it was an almost cool moment, but again, it was treated with humor. Like he's a fancy
Mhm.
drunk.
I guarantee you, whatever scene they try to do with that, the CGI character of Gollum talking back to himself and arguing, Gollum and Smeagol, will be better. Will be treated with more seriousness and will be more impactful than whatever they put in this show.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Guaranteed.
that's a master class in voice acting to
Do
pull
it. Like, well, you have all the
Yeah,
money,
that
and
off.
they have the actor to do it. Like Oscar Isaac can do it.
he could do it. Yeah.
I don't doubt that he can't do it. You
Yeah.
know,
They probably could, yeah, given the space. I want them, and I was reading Andrea notes with the boss, right? This
Yes.
you know
Donna.
the pure contrast that they're trying to show between how Steven's character is viewed by other people. Like the security guard never remembers his name, his boss always talks down to him. And nobody
Just
takes
like
him
just like
seriously.
on the saddest, smallest power trips ever.
I
Like,
know.
"You're on inventory." Like, "Remember you're on inventory." Like, oh my god, the small power you wield is so sad.
And I want there to be a scene where Mark comes back and just lays into that woman. Like I think that
Right.
because it shows the like rebirth,
yeah,
the
that'd be cool.
confidence build that this
Sure,
character has had.
that'd be good.
Does he have
Yeah,
enough time to do it? There are only 4
yeah,
episodes left. I'm already worried.
Is it
yeah.
official that there's only
They're
gonna
in
be
Egypt.
6?
I believe
Yeah,
so, yes.
yeah. Thanks.
Hmm.
I mean, Hawkeye was only 6.
Hmm.
Yeah, but once again, Hawkeye falls into that realm where I think that was just a homage to Hawkeye to show how he fared. His story needed to end. That's how they were gonna
Mhm.
end it.
I don't
So,
want to dive into Hawkeye because I was
there are
have
officially 6
my
episodes
thoughts.
in Moon
Oh,
Knight.
I also liked Hawkeye, but I also have a crush on both those people in real life. So
Heather Poe and or Pug. What's
What?
her name? What's her
well,
name?
Haley
Who are we
Steinfeld was the
Well,
person we were
Haley
talking
Steinfeld, but then the short one that's Black Widow's sister, Pogue,
Florence
Pooh,
Pugh?
Pew. Okay.
Harry Pug? What? Oh my god.
I,
Suddenly I really feel great about my whole it's April, September slip up. Like,
about. Wait,
I
thank
funny
you,
don't
enough,
remember her
John.
name. I
funny
knew who
enough,
you were talking about, but I didn't. Yeah,
Oh my
I
god.
was
whatever.
actually
Harry
talking about
Pug.
Haley Steinfeld and Jeremy Renner, but
Oh, okay, okay, whatever.
no, I'm just joking.
Oh,
No,
don't
I
be
think
so heteronormative, John.
God,
God.
John.
This is the guy who said he could be caught by the rock, okay?
Yes. Yep. That's right.
No,
Oh,
I'm comfortable, and I'm comfortable with it. That's right.
you
Yep.
go
No,
you.
I just think, like I liked both those characters. I thought it was a good homage. I just don't
Sorry,
want
Harry Pug
this.
is gonna stick with me for a
I
while.
know I can't get it out of my head. I was like, who the hell is he talking about? I thought he said Harry and her pug, and I'm like, who are
I
these
don't remember what
people
I
and a
said. I just
dog?
yeah,
Oh
there.
god. Roll
Alan's
the
got
tape
it.
back. Roll
Harry
the
Pug.
tape
Yep.
back.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my god,
but
that's adorable.
I hope that the 6 episodes we get, I really hope they stick with Moon Knight. I hope they don't do a deviation where they're trying to tie him into, like, the Eternals or try to tie
Sure.
him into, if they have, like, on the last scene of the final episode is we find out he's gonna have a part in the in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of
Mhm.
Madness. I don't care. I love it. That's fine. I just what I worry about is, and I keep bringing it back to what they did with Boba Fett, as I was so jacked up to see a Boba Fett series, and then they took half the series and made it about the Mandalorian, and I'm like,
Mhm.
then why even have this character's own series?
Sure.
So as long as they stick to Moon Knight, as long as they continue to drive that character home,
Mhm.
Oscar Isaac can deliver
He
on anything that
can.
you give him.
Trust him.
So just yeah, just trust him to do this part.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't want to sit and be all doom and gloom about it because like ultimately I'm enjoying it fine. Like it's,
Mhm.
I don't it's all right. And there are elements that I really like. I just wanted more. I didn't
Mhm.
expect more, but I wanted more.
Mhm.
And something different. So this is the same kind of hero that would fit in very well with a Daredevil. I'm
Mhm.
used to coming from the
Mhm.
Netflix Daredevil show. This is not that, not
Mhm.
even close to the level of intensity that we got from something like Daredevil. So
Well,
it's
like you
yeah,
said, episode 1 was closer, and then episode 2 kind of,
yeah.
like,
There was
broke
an
from it.
opportunity to go that way.
So we
Um,
could go back,
Yeah, you're giving it
which
2 episodes, man. You gotta give it more than 2 episodes.
but
yeah,
like
I
Andrew
mean,
said, we're a third way through.
yeah, we're the third
Set your
way through. That's
expectations
the,
and what
like,
we're supposed to get here.
that's the danger. And then the
Mhm.
danger is if you move back, are they staying back? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like John and I have talked about, in watching Falcon and Winter Soldier, we both felt like that show suffered from like some very serious like mood and plot imbalance and wild swings and shift in tone affected like the overall quality of the series. Like so I don't want Moon Knight to be this like struggle between like going darker and like lighter. There obviously like things need to have balance, but I just don't want it to be these like wild like pendulum seesaws of, that kind of shift. So I guess my hope would be they do go back to more of an episode 1 tone and stay there. Don't keep, like, bringing me back and forth because then I feel, like, off kilter and I'm just not, like, into the show because you keep bringing me back out.
Yeah. Well, the Falcon and Winter Soldier one, that had to end. Like, that had to end at the end of that season, right? That
Yeah.
was the
Yeah,
conclusion of the Bucky Barnes and Falcon, story
which
arc.
is which is fine, but, like, they just, like, did these weird, like,
It
we're f
was.
we're friends, enemies, we hate each other, we've worked with each other before, we feel like we've never worked with each other before, like, what is happening in
They
all
It
of
was a
wanted
this?
buddy cop can't be buddy cop.
Yeah, and
That
it
was what
was
they were
too
going for.
hard.
exactly.
It
They
was
they
it was
wanted
like
the buddy
yeah.
cop, but they also wanted to talk about issues, and they also wanted to tie into the MCU. Like they wanted a lot of things from that show that
Mhm.
didn't fit together. Like
Well, and
it
it
could have,
and it felt out of order. Like, "We're buddy
yeah.
cops. Wait, we don't know each other, we don't like each other." Like, "Oh, nope, we're buddies again." Like, "Nope, we have to work on our relationship over here." Like,
It felt
either
like they
you
were
have
trying
a
to force
relationship or
them
you don't.
together. Right. It was not like they could have taken a blueprint much more akin to Lethal Weapon.
Mhm.
You want to do that's your blueprint for a buddy
The
cop movie.
original buddy cop.
Yeah.
Right.
Where you have two people that don't know each other, and
Mhm.
they're shoved together, they have to work together, and then they end up creating a really great bond to one another, and then accomplishing their mission in the end.
Right.
Well, that's great, but you'd be starting these people in a different place because they're already buddies. So
Mhm.
why are you trying to break them up to put them back together?
Yep.
And then their situation and why they had to be together seemed kind of weird to begin with, and we didn't
Right.
understand their situation, like where they are mission wise or what just
Right, waste
the
my
like,
time.
yeah, it was a
And
mess.
that's
That was
ultimately
a
what I
mess.
don't want from, like, Moon Knight is don't waste
And
my
I don't
time
think
because you
we're
don't have a
gonna
lot of
get
my
that
time.
much. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yep. All right. Any final thoughts? Anything we haven't covered? I haven't looked through people's notes, but I feel like I've said what I need to say about this show off 2
Mhm.
episodes.
I just think if you're a waiter at a steakhouse and a guy says, "Yeah, I'll take the best cut of meat," and you say, "Oh, I'll give you that. Well done," you should be fired. You should be instantly fired.
Immediately.
Immediately
Immediate.
fired
Oh
and
Yeah.
god, that was so
blacklisted.
awkward.
I
Part
had to
like
Yeah.
rewind it. I was like, "Wait, did I hear that? Did you just say well done?" And he goes, "Yeah, that sounds fine." I'm like, "No, that sounds awful."
he's, like, upselling him on this, like, high quality meat, and he's like, "Sure, like, I'll just char that up for you right here." Like, yeah. God, it was the weirdest. That actually
Yeah.
I did like that scene though because it did remind me, I didn't like the content of the scene, but I liked the emotional depth, like the
Yes.
very, like Oscar Isaac did feel appropriately pathetic to the moment of like, God, my life, man, like this shit. I just can't, like he's missed 3 days. He thought he had a date. Things were looking so up and then like, oh, what happened to me? I both don't know what the hell I got myself into and like the one bright spot of my week where I had a date is just like crushed. Like, I don't know. I read all of that from Oscar Isaac.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
I think he continues to do a fabulous job and he needs to be given better material.
All right. Well, we're gonna have. I know we're gonna have Pete on sometime, who is a Moon Knight fan in terms of like traditionally the comics and stuff, and we'll get his take as well. We're all Moon Knight normies here, so take that for what you will. We're consuming it like most people will be consuming it.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's those are our thoughts. We're gonna have to do. I feel like we're gonna have to do a you know we'll have Pete on. We're gonna have to have Chris on, and then we get everybody, all you back for the final thing or something like that.
Are you
And
trying to
we,
get like an end game thing here? You can't just
yeah,
end a
but
game.
we're just
I'm
gonna
building
wing
the
it.
threads.
If one of you doesn't work out, we're gonna move the other way, and then we're just
We're gonna
gonna
eliminate one of you based on like the number of views we get on the
yeah
video. So,
Do I get my own spin-off series like that I can get a conclusion arc later on?
yeah yeah. So yeah, it's good to hear what you guys think about the show.
Mhm,
That's Moon Knight episodes 1 and 2. That's all that's available currently, and episode 3 should be dropping in just a couple days, Wednesday, I believe. So
Your
be ready for
birthday,
that.
coincidentally. Couldn't go through the
Yeah,
whole show without mentioning it. I'm sorry. I waited till the
is
end.
it? Is it? Yeah, maybe my a birthday gift will be a good Moon Knight episode.
Yeah, there you go.
A great Moon Knight
A
episode.
great Moon Knight
That's
episode.
yeah. That sounds nice.
Mhm,
Um, anyways, Tony, thank you for joining us tonight on your
Thank you for
premiere
having me.
showing. Yeah, absolutely. Or be happy to have you back sometime.
mhm,
Talk more Moon Knight, amongst other things. Um, everybody should follow us, including you, Tony. But everybody, tell
mhm.
everybody to follow us on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all those things. Leave comments if you are a Marvel stan and you're like we're way out of pocket. Come at us. It's fine. Let us know what we're wrong about. We're also on podcast directories. Most of your favorite probably Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor. Go ahead and subscribe to us there. Please leave a review. That helps a lot. So they say. And otherwise, Killing the Flower, they created our theme song. So you should check them out on Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. And that'll about do it from us. That's Popcast on the Rocks episode 102. Uh, Tony, thanks for jumping on, and Andrea, thanks as always. See you next week.
Of course. Cheers, everybody.